Welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 109. This week we have the great SubCool joining us. Thanks for joining us this week.
Hey, bro, how you doing? Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We also have Marty.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight?
Co-founder Marty.
We got Mr. Green Jeans.
Hey, everybody.
Screaming children.
Technical difficulties.
No extra charge for child time.
We also have Roger.
How you all doing?
And we have Josh from Dutch Blooms.
Hello.
And Josh actually helped put together this episode this week, so thanks again, Josh.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining us. SubCool. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you do and what you're all about?
I started growing cannabis when I was when I was really young. I had a friend who, there's always a girl in my stories, okay? So I had a friend who had an older sister, and I thought she was cute. And she had a boyfriend, and I thought he was the coolest dude in the world because he had a sports car, and he smoked weed. And I saw him over there in the house smoking weed, and I said, well, I want some of that. So I found some seeds on a rolling tray, and I grew them. I had no way to buy weed as young as I was. So we started growing it, and my parents' first look into that was I was about 11 years old, and they found a pot plant in my window. So they didn't know what to do. I hadn't smoked it yet, by the way, just learning. And they turned it into mysticism. You know, they were like, you can't have this. And I was like, wait a minute, it's a plant. And from that moment on, I had a fascination with it that drove on to a little bit older in life when I started growing cannabis because it was expensive. So I love telling the story. So I figured out how much money I spent on cannabis, and I was spending about $15,000 a year. Living in Georgia, weed was about $400 an ounce. And I said, you know, I'm never going to own anything if I just buy weed. So I started growing it in earnest. And I got caught in Georgia for cultivation, and they put me in jail. And they put me in jail with mother rapers and father rapers, and they fed me shitty food, and it pissed me off. And when I got out, and I started growing cannabis again in Florida, and I got caught with about 900 plants, and I got sentenced to 18 years in jail. And so I ran. I stayed in Amsterdam, Europe, Spain, stayed out of the country 4 or 5 years. And I eventually dropped my guard, came back into America, and I got picked up on a warrant, finished doing my time, moved to the West Coast and started a seed company called TGA Genetics, where I distributed seeds throughout the world through Overgrow and a couple of other websites. And we think we were one of the first companies to openly sell seeds in America. I can tell you that the event we sold seeds at, no one was selling anything. Cali Connection wasn't selling seeds. No one was selling dabs. But after the first time we sold seeds, everybody did. And I've watched the modern cannabis movement move past some of the old school guys like me and Kyle Cushman and Bob. You ask a 25-year-old grower who Kyle Cushman is, and he might not even know. So now I'm involved in the licensing of corporate cannabis and branding. I have a large brand nationwide, but one of the biggest problems, and I hope to talk about it tonight, is you can go in a store almost anywhere in America and buy my strain, not grown by me, and it might not be tested properly, and it might not be what you need for insomnia or for pain or for your seizures, and we're trying to change that nationwide. We also are working with the Europeans to move some of our California stock into Canada, which we did prior to October 21st, which was their cutoff day to bring in genetics. So we moved 50,000 seeds from California into Canada legally. So hopefully we can improve their beaster situation. I want to talk about Canada tonight. Please circle around to the fact that you can go to prison for 14 years for smoking weed in Canada, even though it's legal. And then that's it. I teach people how to grow pot. I have a website called subcool.com where you can go watch videos. The site is not really a commerce site. If you want to learn how to grow, all you have to do is go to Google and type SubCool cloning, SubCool transplanting, SubCool harvesting, SubCool, bubble making, and I probably have written an article about it in the last 20 years that you can go read. My mission in this world is to teach you to grow so that we can overgrow this fucking planet so they will stop putting our brothers and sisters in jail. And that is my sole reason for being on this planet.
That's awesome. So how did you first get started growing and what, and breeding and but I mean, you talked a little bit about growing your first couple of plants, but when did you start, kind of really getting into the breeding end of it?
I was living on the run, and I had a good friend named Danny Dodson, and he's the guy that put his house up to get me out of jail. And I wanted to do something. He passed away in Amsterdam. He died of a heart attack in Gypsy Nirvana's house. And, I wanted to do something to memorialize him. So I had a friend who bred cannabis, and that's Soul with Brothers Grimm and also Boggs. I knew kind of how to do it. So I had a plant called Taco, and we bred Taco, Time Killer Queen, and made Danny Boy. That's it. We just made the seeds and grew them out. And everybody liked it. And then it had a good story. One thing you'll learn from me if you follow me is one thing that can really make good cannabis is a good story. So, Danny's name followed through. We only made it one time. And so it gained a lot of fame. You can't buy it. And then I wrote the article and it got published in High Times Magazine. And everybody's like, whoa, what's this American guy that grows pot and makes strains? And from there, I've created 207 strains, including Jilly Bean, Agent Orange, Pennywise, Vortex, and Jesus OG Kush. And I got to tell you, it gives me a boner when I hang around a bunch of people and they're like, oh yeah, you're a grower? I go, no, dude, I created Jesus OG Kush. And they're like, what? And I go, well, yeah, I did the artwork. I smuggled it worldwide, put it in every shop. I made fun of it, even though I do believe in Jesus and I wouldn't ever be bad. It comes from a strain called Hell's OG. I didn't want to name it Satan weed or demon weed. So I was like, let's just call it Jesus. So that story travels around the world, and now people look to me for advice on how to breed. When it really got heavy is when I noticed potent other breeders started taking my gear like Time Wreck and creating strains like Quantum Kush and Doctor Who. And even the breeder Jinx Proof, he took my Jesus OG Kush and made the strain 9-pound hammer. So it's quite an honor to have other people take and grow a pack of your seeds and make strains. But on the other hand, a lot of times they don't pay homage. So there's a lot of my gear for sale in this world that's either fake or made by someone else. But I got to say I welcome it, because remember what I said in that first statement? Let's overgrow, man. You're welcome to buy my seeds and make something else and give it to your buddies, because that's how we'll make it legal.
So I know you created Agent Orange?
Absolutely, I did. I did it for my wife.
Right now.
In tribute to my wife's father, who died of Agent Orange. He died of cancer in late '78. And so me and Jill thought it would be a great idea to create a strain and name it. We took a lot of heat for it because people thought we were being rude. And in no way, I will tell you that if you're a veteran and you need seeds, ask. They're free forever. If you fought for my country, seeds are free. And that's why we support the vets, and that's why we created Agent Orange.
I hear you. I got to step out for a moment, gentlemen. I'll be back. Yeah, I'm smoking some of that right now, and it's the greatest smelling plant I ever grew.
Wow. Thank you.
So
I've grown Agent Orange too, and I think I've grown Hercule too, which I think is also is a 1-to-1 strain from TGA, and had some great luck with it.
Can I ask you a question about that? So my theory behind Hercule was, Pennywise is supposedly a sativa CBD strain, and the idea behind Hercule was to put that Harlequin and crossed it with Hercule, which is purple of Hercule. And do you find it to be more sedative or more of an indica, or you can't quantify it?
Well, I grew it outdoors, and we let it go pretty late, so it definitely had a sedative. Like I definitely felt like it was it was more of a mellow kind of high. So I preferred to smoke it in the evening, and it was I got a lot of pain relief out of it. I deal with a lot of shoulder and back pain, and I really enjoyed it. I used it actually throughout the day a lot because I felt like that it doesn't really give you that like huge lift. I didn't feel like that big head high, but it was more of a body high for me. Really enjoyed it.
I like it.
So you used to be real active on overgrow.net back in the day as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't like this story because it sounds so pompous, but I'll tell the story. So me and Shebang and Scoosh and Pie and a bunch of my friends were sitting around the house one day in Georgia at a party at a place we called Jamaica, which was just my house. And the whole world kind of thought we were in Jamaica. And Shebang knew how to write code. Eric knew how to write. And those guys, and NL420 was the other guy. These guys all knew how to code. I don't know how to code. And I said, man, what if we had a website where we could all hang out and we could all take and put pictures of our pot up? You got to understand, like my first computer was an Acer 133 and my first phone was a bag phone. There's no Instagram. There's no Facebook. There is no World Wide Web. Okay. There's no pot sites. There's chat shit. You buy a computer and code comes up. So we had the idea to make a website where we could all go, where we could all hang out and talk. And so these guys built Overgrow. And at one time, there wasn't Roll It Up or IC Mag or THC Talk or Bud Babes and Boobs. There was one thing. It was Overgrow. And we were all there every fucking day. It was the only place to go. You woke up and you logged on. Well, RC owned Overgrow, and I was selling seeds through RC, and RC got busted in Canada, and he had 2 gold bricks for him, and a pack of my seeds, Danny Boy, was on the front of the Canadian Post. You want your balls to shrink up real small. I was scared to death. And so RC got busted, and the cops held Overgrow for 10 years and all his information. And last year, they released it, and some friends picked it up, and overgrow.com is back. And every article is there. All the resources are there. It's not an active community. It's more like a library resource. But what a great story. I mean, you guys, I can't stress it enough. There was nowhere to go learn how to grow. And then there was Overgrow. And Bushy-O Grower, a direct result of this community. Me, direct result of this community. DNA, absolutely. Those guys were in the forums talking to us. So Overgrow is responsible for the modern cannabis movement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember it was when I was just starting off. This was way before all the YouTube and all the fancy stuff now. It was overgrow.net, Ed Rosenthal's book, and then Jorge Cervantes had some VHSs, and I don't even think DVDs. He had the DVDs out yet. And that was the 3 resources that I had to even go to. In fact, that's how I learned about Breeder Steve and his early aquaponic stuff, and some of the early work he was doing back in '96 or '7, I forget which. But yeah, we've had him on the show, and we've talked about that plenty of times as well. So you actually went through and had a pretty nasty events. You're part of the fire and everything up in Santa Rosa last year, and do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Yeah, no, I'll tell the story. It's October 8th, 2017. And I was up in Northern California. We had been trimming. You can actually, by the way, watch Weed Nerd episode 320 it is and see it. I didn't know this. So I carried my video camera for 3 weeks because my computer burned up in the fire. And once I finally mixed it, this is what you see. You see me making hash with Frenchie up on the mountain. You see me making hash with Bond up on the mountain. You see me go to Mendo Dope's house and drop him off. And then you see my fucking house burn down. And we lost $12 million in cannabis seeds and uninsured cannabis products. And we ran through the flames. There's things I can't talk about, but at that time, I lost Jill. Jill went north and I went south, and we never were able to put it back together. So, but I had a sales guy named Will, and he came and picked me up. I'm embarrassed, but not that embarrassed. I was in a hotel room And I was losing my shit. I was crying. I lost everything I own except my dog. I was sitting there holding my dog, and he said, well, I'll be there and come get you. So he came and got me and brought me to Mesa, Arizona. That's how I ended up in Arizona. So we're working hard. We bought a bowling alley in Global, Arizona, which we are filling up with cannabis. We're one of the state producers, so we can sell to 121 other dispensaries. But by no means do I have a paycheck yet. It's a rat-infested bowling alley right now. We're working on it. I also have a license in California. I work under a license in California called Seed to Soul, and we have the rights to distribute seeds to 3,100 dispensaries in California. We have 1 million seeds sitting in California in the matrix ready. But California says that I cannot do it because I'm a felon. So we have a team of lawyers trying to figure out how we can move these seeds that you guys want to grow into the dispensaries where you can go buy them under California's horrible fucking new law where weed's $600 a pound with a $150 tax, and it costs $900 to test it. The age of craft cannabis is going to disappear unless you guys right here hang on. Grow your own cannabis and make your own cannabis. The shit you're going to buy at Walmart and Target in the next 3 years is not what I grew up growing. And I want to say one thing more to you, panel, and I want you to hear this and I want you to feel it with me. There's an entire generation of kids, the first time they got high was from a vape pen. Not some girl at a Doobie Brothers concert blowing them a shotgun, okay? It makes me cry. A vape pen is the first time you ever tried cannabis? It's horrible.
Agreed. So these pictures I have up now are from that Agent Orange and Herkel. That's Agent Orange there.
Gorgeous.
There.
You do me proud, man. Absolutely.
Excellent work, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marty. No, you too. Those are giant colas. Well done. I love it. I didn't mean to lose the fire and get into the vape pens, but it's something that really kills me. I talked to a couple of kids the other week, and they were telling me they use cannabis, and I said, "Are you guys know how to roll a joint?" No. No, how to roll a joint. We have a vape pen.
They probably couldn't roll a joint if you asked them to.
Well, they can now because I whipped out a pack of orange zigzags.
I was going to say, sit down, son. We've got some learning to do.
Yeah. Give me that pack of orange papers. He's like, "Why you need those papers?" I was like, "Just watch." So,
Hand me that paper plate.
that's it. So, but the thing I went off on in California is, I tell you, it's a big deal right now. I mean, 3 years ago in California under 64 250, and I was growing the best cannabis of my life. I was transporting it myself. I was taking it to Organican and Buds and Roses. They were giving me good old American cash for it. I paid my taxes. I bought my groceries. Life was good. You get $3,100 a pound for weed no more, and you can't drive it up the highway no more. Now you got to have a transporter and a third-party packager, and no cartoons. Now I get no cartoons on the package, but like they won't even let me use my likeness on a pack. I'm a cartoon. So it's just, I realize the alcohol industry went through this, but the alcohol industry did not suffer what we're suffering right now. I mean, you don't have to produce Jim Beam in one state and then sell it in one state. It's ridiculous. Did you also know that you can buy weed in Washington, drive to Mississippi, and go to prison for 20 years? How do we do this?
That musician just did that.
The pounds. Yeah, he had some pounds. Yeah. And people made fun of him, but you got to understand, there's never been a time in our country where you can walk into a store as an American citizen and 21 years old, buy something, get in your car and travel not across any borders, no gates, there's no Nazis standing in the way. Or do you pass it? You're just driving. And then somebody pulls you over in Mississippi and you straight up could go to prison for 20 years for possession. And they're trying to get this guy for what, trafficking? Because he had some pounds, right? It's a different world. I'm sure the people on this panel buy packs like nothing. This is what we do. This is the industry we're in. Doesn't mean we're trafficking. It just means I need some weed. So it's a big problem right now. And then you have other situations. Canada. If I can go for a second, in Canada.
Sure.
So in Canada, I've been selling seeds for 25 years. At worst, would happen in Canada before the law changed was somebody would say, don't do it or do it differently. You can go to prison for 14 years now for breaking any of the codes that are in Canada. If a 19-year-old passes a joint to a 17-year-old, he can go to prison for trafficking. So everybody running around saying Canada legalized. Canada regulated out the ass. You smoke the pot they want, where they want you to, when they want you to, and you can smoke some pot. Other than that, it's not legal.
Yeah, and so California is really bad as far as the length of the license, but Canada is even worse. I know the one that we applied for just manufacturing was 679 pages, double printed, both sides, and the actual application was what, 42 pages, I think. You had to just write basically write a novel.
And they do this to keep moving the target. So I have 4 contracts for Go Cannabis, and as of yet, I'm still fighting for that right. And this is what burns me up. And I think this is the right kind of group to talk about this. If our goal is to regulate, they're not. And anytime you take cannabis in California that's 400, and then you have weed for sale in Florida that's 4,000, bitch is going to be smuggling. I mean, come on. I mean, if you're starving to death and you got 100 pounds and you living in Humboldt County, you're going to find out where the UPS office is real quick. And I make a joke and I see everybody nodding their head, but you can go to prison for this. And these people would rather sell their cannabis locally under real law, but it's gotten too complicated.
Yeah, and that's well, go ahead, John.
I was just to say, Sub, I'm a recreational grower in Washington, and I don't know how familiar you are with up here, but like most of the companies are, I talk about it a lot on the show, but most of the companies are bigger companies. I'm one of the few it's just me. I grow all the weed. I harvest all the weed. And man, it is fucking hard, you know. I haven't even got into retail. Like I can't afford to get into retail. So I have weed that I sit on, you know, and argue about, am I going to sell to some dude for 20 cents a gram? Or 75 cents a gram, or if I'm fucking lucky, $1.25. Like, and to your topic, like, I have a family, you know, and it's really fucking tempting to, like, you know, turn them cameras off and, like, you know, but it's like I can't do it. I cannot do it. It's too risky, you know. It's really unfortunate because what I'm trying to do is grow really good organic, clean, you know, cannabis, really cool strains. I'm trying to grow and support my community, and I should be able to sell to my fucking neighbors, you know. But right now we have we started with 1,200 licensed growers. I actually had to buy the license for $75,000 because I came in late because I was one of the medical guys. And now we're down to 600-ish growers, and we only have 250 stores throughout the whole fucking state.
You know,
where in 2014 we had 3,000 stores. When I moved, you know, when I was like doing the medical thing, so that's like what's happened in the last since our legalization, and we've kind of been, us in Colorado, the first ones, you know.
What sucks is, and I'm going to be one of these guys that pisses you off. So
yeah,
I heard about a license today in California for $2,500. When I was in California, when I lived in Santa Rosa, I was looking at paying $125,000 for that fucking thing. So now I can just go backwards, and some poor son of a gun didn't make it, and now I can pick up his bones. That's what's going on. And I hear Washington's worse.
Well, even like this one kind of, you know, gets me. Like I agreed to this. This guy bought this license from some dude for $75,000. He told me straight up he took him less than $10,000 to set that thing up, and I still pay him on it. You know, it's one of those deals where I make monthly payments, and so when it comes time to like feed my family, and I'm paying this guy, and I've already paid him 20, 30 grand, you know, I owe him. That's what I got to do. I got to pay. But it's, you know, this thing is not easy, you know, so I'm not trying to air my dirty laundry, but, you know, just to, you know.
That's why we're here, dude. And I got some tips for you. I mean, you guys brought me on because I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
I can give you all some tips. So let me give you some ideas, because I talk to a lot of people. I'm going to tell you some cool things I've learned. I've got a friend here visiting from Colorado. So where I live in Arizona, they grow mediocre weed. They don't do a lot of bubble. The craft isn't here, but they make diamonds the size of your fist. I mean, they have got the extract art down. And the problem with this is they keep blowing shit up, and it's bad for our industry. So Colorado's been around long enough to where they've stopped blasting a lot of stuff. They've gotten more into the craft rosin. So I can tell you that the one product that will sell the best, and it's the easiest to move, is just what I said. Get really good at making bubble hash and then press it. Really good rosin sells for $120 to $150 a gram here. And you don't need to make it. Go ahead.
You're totally right. And I just, I won the first Herb Festival here in Washington in 2015 for my hash rosin.
You did.
And so, dude, I totally am on that game. I got 4 wards I'm looking up at right here.
So can you sell it?
I can't sell it for $10 a gram, dude.
Oh fuck! Come visit me.
Yeah.
Dude,
I know. That's what I'm up against. They look at me and they go, "Oh, we're buying BHO. We're buying diamonds for, $10, $12 a gram. Would be pushing it. And I'm talking fucking fire, dude.
See, then
there's no track where you're worried about crossing state lines, but the only way he can get anything for all the money he's invested in his harvest is to cross state lines.
Well, yes and no. Not to argue with you, Roger, because I'm just on your show.
Yeah, please give it.
Well, this is what we do, and I'm not making this offer directly, but I can tell you in my new bowling facility, we have a walk-in cooler and a rosin pressing machine, because the one thing Arizona's lacked to make good hash is a cold room. It's fucking hot here. So I'm going to build a facility, and I'm going to invite the best hash makers in the world to come wash my product. And that's how I can put good product on the shelf. Now, no, you can't move your product over here. But, and what's really weird is we already missed some guys. If you guys don't know who Bond or Frenchie is, I knew Frenchie when all he was a guy who dropped dope all over my kitchen floor. For real. I mean, Frenchie was just a guy. So his craft is matured, and so did, we offered Mr. Bond money, but the license fell apart. Now he has one. So I will find a very good extract maker out there, Ash, and I'll bring him into my facility and I'll give him a walk-in. That's the only way I know to change craft, is to give somebody the facility.
Yeah, one of the other issues in Colorado specifically is Colorado, was it in July, I think it was, or maybe it was May, I forget which month it was, but it passed some new weird law around bubble hash and testing, and it's a huge pain in the ass. So there's actually kind of a big problem with bubble hash. I have some friends of mine that are do rosin, and they said it's pretty hard to get bubble and rosin in Colorado, at least recently.
It is. I'll tell you something that blew my mind. I found out yesterday, because you guys know I'm in branding. I will tell you a quick story. So OG Rascal has the first trademark for a cannabis strain in America. It's Whitefire. The problem is he doesn't have a license yet to sell his cannabis in California. In order for that trademark patent to stick, anybody that understands business, you got to sell it. It's got to be sold in America. That's just how it works. So he can lose his patent. I haven't told him about this. He might smack me in the head for running my mouth, but it's just the truth. So we would like to package one of my strains like Deadlights or Pennywise, all the damn seeds in California from one dispensary to the other. And boom, I can make it a trademark on it right away. Check this out. Did you know in fucking Colorado, based on the way they do it, they bought my Agent Orange seeds, and then under their metric, let's just call Sky Dispensary, because I don't know any names. So Sky Dispensary logs their Agent Orange into the system, and then becomes their strain. Are you fucking kidding me? You didn't create it. I found that out today, and I can't even do anything about it, not that I care. And this isn't about money. They just literally take my strain and log it into the strain in the matrix. And then I find out, did you know that each shop has their own? What are you kidding me? So there's like 20 different versions of Pennywise in Colorado?
Well, and then you have so a lot of states, and you know this too, have the mystery 90 days or whatever, where the first 30 days or 90 days, they don't ask where the seeds come from. And then once they have that, then they're locked into their genetics unless they get them from, and most states still do that. Even ones that are just coming online now have a period where they don't ask questions about where the genetics come from, and half the time these dispensaries will just rename it. It could be your stuff, and they'll just rename it.
I have a friend here now that works the matrix system in Colorado, and they will literally take Agent Orange and change the name of it to Orange Pie or whatever and rock and roll. And that's cool, because I really do want people to overgrow the planet. But yeah, at least if you've been to prison 4 times for growing cannabis, you would at least appreciate somebody saying, yeah, this is Agent Orange by SubCool, or this is vortex. Can I tell you guys, do y'all know the story of God's pussy? Do y'all know that story? So in the very first American Cup, a guy named Green Bicycles, Jack with Green Bicycles, grew my vortex out and entered it. And he didn't think he was going to win. And as a joke, he named it God's pussy. And so I entered it too, and it won. And I forget her name, Madeline somebody. She's a feminist. And she was standing on stage and they handed her the card. And she goes, and the winner of the High Times Cup is, she passes the card off. And so this is like American history, American cannabis history. You can type it into a Google browser and the story of God's pussy and SubCool's vortex will come up. My point is, if we had a real federal law to where we could protect our product, this shit wouldn't happen. You don't see Oreos by Bob at the Piggly Wiggly. Oreos are Oreos and Coke is Coke. And the customer that has seizures that needs some Pennywise, it goes into a dispensary that somebody picked a sativa dominant without any CBD that doesn't stop their seizure, we're not medicating our patients. It's not.
So what level of stability would you say would warrant a patent, like an F1, or how much? Because this is something that we, I personally I have mixed feelings on the patenting and genetics, but I'm not going to get into it. But what level of stability would you feel would warrant a patent? I guess
you're smart. That's a great question. So number one, I am known as Mr. Unstable. We do polyhybrids and we select. So I would think the first thing would be to trademark the cutting itself. So we have a 28-to-1 Pennywise cutting. We found it in 100 seeds. I'm not gonna lie to you, you may never find it again, ever. I think a shop should have the ability to lock that down through Phylos. You know what Phylos is? So Phylos.
Actually, a real good friend of mine in Colorado actually works in the same lab.
So we do Phylos testing, and then we get a genetic stamp from the breeder. And that's all I'm pushing for. It sounds like I'm pushing for a lot. All I want is when there's a strain in a shop, I want it to carry my mark that says this is really what it is. Agent Orange, which helps you with your depression, is Agent Orange. And Pennywise, which helps you with your leg cramps, is Pennywise. That's it. It's a real simple thing. And in the next 10 years, I think you're going to see it. We have collaborated with Kyle Cushman, OG Rascal. You're seeing breeders start teaming up with each other's breeders to start protecting intellectual rights. My idea was to get Soul, Mr. Soul, Cinderella 99, Kyle Cushman, OG Rascal, me together. That's a powerful group, but right now California law says we can't work together. So y'all see where I'm going. I mean, there's a lot of power in having 4 breeders that have almost 400 strains under their belt. But will they let us do that?
And that's a problem with a lot of the current laws now in a lot of different areas, is that the people that actually know what the hell they're doing are the people that happen to have gotten arrested once or twice for doing it. And they're being boxed out of the market, and they're being replaced by bankers and other people that have no appreciation. And we've talked about this last week, and I went on a bit of a rant about it, but yeah, people that just have no appreciation of it. And like, how many kids these days under the age of 30 even know who like Dennis Perone is, or Brownie Mary, or some of the early people that actually got us to where we're at. And we've talked about them. We've had Wayne Justman on the show and everything like that, and Dennis's brother as well. It's really infuriating some days, and where people like yourself or other people that have really fought and struggled and suffered to get everything there are just being replaced just wholesale and then producing crap. Like, it's not even like they're producing something that's equivalent to this old stuff. It's just trash. It's like Budweiser, but only 3.2. That's what you're gonna.
No, and I'll tell you, if my rant, I won't go full blown rant on this one, but I mean, yes, I'm having a hard time getting a fucking job growing cannabis because I grew cannabis for real. I mean, what are your qualifications? Well, I have 4 U.S. felonies for cultivation, manufacture, and trafficking. I should get a raise, but no, it's like you got caught. I was like, so I pushed the envelope. I mean, that's my biggest. If you want to think I'm stupid, I had 1,200 plants in a 2-story house in Florida. I'm stupid. I was trying to grow me a mansion, baby. Whatever. But
Huge
the
demand.
sick thing came later. I joke. The sick thing came, and I didn't save any of these up, but all right, I'll tell you one. Two things happen. One, people thank me for teaching them to grow cannabis so that they could treat themselves or their wives or their loved ones. Vets, people who have no money, tell me that I taught them how to grow pot, and they grew a house. The new one is, and I'm going to tell you one specifically, a gentleman wrote me last week. He's a weed nerd. He follows me on YouTube, and he reads my books and my writings. I have a book in the Library of Congress in the Jefferson Memorial Library, by the way. And very proud of that. And he asked me, he said, he said, my wife of 30 years has got, she's become schizophrenic, and I've lost her. And the drugs they put her on make her go away worse. And when I give her cannabis, it helps her, and she comes back. And he said, could I buy some seeds from you, man? I was like, God, how could you ever charge somebody for that? How could you ever not help him? I sent him 15 packs. I mean, he has somebody with him for 30 years, and he's losing her, and cannabis brings her back. And Big Pharma didn't want to help. And if I can help this man in any way, even if he doesn't grow the seeds, even if it's just somebody saying, man, I hear you, and I'm sorry, and here's a hand. If that makes a difference, then that's why I'm still here.
That's really awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Don't be, yeah.
I deal with a lot of sick people, and a lot of people don't see that side of it. I've become the cannabis, I don't know, the doctor of cannabis, and people ask me the craziest stuff. And I go, I don't know, but I'll send you some seeds. I mean, you know, grow some cannabis and see if your leg cramps go away, or if your sacroiliac goes away, or whatever you have in your body that help, because cannabis sure has changed my life. So
I know.
So many strains to choose from too, you know, like I always encourage people, you know, because especially, you know, new people, you know, that are looking specifically for medicinal relief. A lot of times they'll try one strain that they, you know, buy at the dispensary because, you know, some high school kid, probably not high school kid, but some young person getting paid minimum wage recommended this strain to them. They tried it once and it didn't work, and they want to give up. You know, it's a whole, you know, we got thousands of different strains and combinations to go through, ways to consume it, you know, like, so
bartender education, Marty, oh God, don't get me started. These guys, I had a kid yesterday tell me everything I needed to know about Deep Purple, and everything he told me was wrong. Like literally. And I tried to explain to him I created it, and he goes, oh, you grow? Let me tell you, they are not hiring rocket scientists. Bud tender is not an educated job right now in our country, but we'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that it's important to continue to encourage people. And I've seen a lot of elderly people, you know, like we run the Facebook group, and we've been doing the podcast for a while, and, you know, a lot of different stuff. So I get a lot of messages from people too. And it's always great to, you know, when they have success, like, you know, even just growing. And then on a whole nother level, if they can have some success, like I can't even imagine like you guys creating a strain with a specific intent in mind, and having it come through, man. That's got to feel great. Well, the one that has me the most excited in the world right now is it's Deadlights, and I'll tell you why. Deadlights, we hit 28-1, and it is unbelievable. It tastes like peaches and watermelon. You know, when you think of a high CBD strain, you just think of that roadside ditchweed, right? No flavor. No. Dude, my Deadlights taste like peaches and cantaloupes. I mean, it is awesome. And so we hit 28-1 with it. But what's as important is I want next year to work with Pheno Seed Bank, who has some 45-1 hemp varieties. Now, I've talked to one other breeder who's down with this, and a lot of cannabis growers are starting to grow hemp because the regulations on hemp are much easier. You can grow hemp for cordage and sell the shit out of it. You don't have to deal with all this crap. So a lot of people are switching over. I want to take one of these 40-1s and cross it with one of my 25-1s. But here's the difference. Hemp is below 0.03. Everybody understands that? So all the time when I buy my penny wise and grow hemp, I go, whoa, buddy.
I don't make hemp, I make cannabis, and you're not going to get below 0.03 with what I have. But what if we take something in the 40s or 50s and we cross it with something from the cannabis family, and we make a hybrid plant that's high THC and high CBD? Talk a 2040, talking real medicine, folks. And as long as we can maintain the terpene profile, and I think I can with selection, we'll have something new. Not necessarily that can be grown in a hemp farm, because we get so good that if you fertilize the plant, it'll go to 0.04, and then you have to throw thousands of pounds of hemp away. But we want to grow this new variety in cannabis farms. So 35 and 40 with 10 or 15. Can y'all dig it?
Yeah.
So that's my new thing, and it's pretty easy. Pheno Seed Bank is one of the leading producers of hemp seeds in America, so it's an American hemp farmer. And I am proud to tell you I am an American cannabis seed producer and have been for 30 years. And so I'm proud of that. I didn't go to Amsterdam like everybody else. I didn't tuck tail. I did it here, and I'm proud of that. And so we want to make American genetics together with our friends like Pheno Seed Bank.
So what traits do you look for in when you're breeding in male plants specifically?
Male plants are very unique. So first we have to cover the basics of botany. So the last male plant to show sex in your room under normal conditions with no stress is going to be the most drug dominant. The dominant state of cannabis is hemp. And if it wasn't for man, it would all be hemp. I have a theory that a couple thousand years ago, some Indians or some Aboriginals smoked some hemp and they got a little tingle from it and they started breeding with it. I think the biggest omission of cannabis history is American Indians. If you don't think American Indians were breeding with cannabis, you're a fucking idiot. I mean, we know that Columbus brought seeds over. We know that a lot of the early people brought them in. We also know that Columbus had them with him. And so we know they were on the planet here. So all that was left out. So I'm rambling here. But so if we leave it alone, the very first male plant to show sex is going to pollinate the female plants. And over time, they all become hemp. So what we have to do as breeders is find that one male plant that wouldn't make it. We look for a plant that has capacit resin. In other words, the male plant has visible resin. We look for a terp that is unusual. And unusual means most male plants smell like grass, wheatgrass, hay, etc. If you rub enough male plants, every once in a while you rub one and you're like, oh shit, it smells like baby poop and puke and cherries, for instance. Make the note and put him over in the corner. So if he's the last male plant to indicate, he would never make it in the wild. And so that's a good thing. If he's got the right kind of smell that we look for, that's good. And then we move on to the next. We want to flower him out, and he has to have big balls, as AC/DC would say. We don't want little wimpy clusters, because that's not going to force clusters of large colas. So it's just common sense that a plant with big, giant, grapey clusters, big colas of male plants, is going to produce plants better than a male that's got just a couple of little male pods. So that's next. And then another one that's kind of unusual is huffing pollen. Now this sounds kind of crazy, and I don't mean with a straw, but in a breeding room, when you kick a male, the pollen will release, and you breathe it in. Some people, by the way, get horrible hay fever attacks and choke to death. I have a fatal respiratory disease, and I don't have any cilia in my lungs. They're all gone. I don't sneeze or anything, and so I can smell pollen. And so what I do is I open my mouth and I go, and the pollen lands on my tongue and on my gums and on my lip, and you can taste it. Okay? The taste that we really want to get away from are grass and hay and believe it or not, pine. And this taste we want to get into is something really exotic, like oranges or strawberries or watermelons or coffee. That's that male that is unusual. And then last, we take that male, we cross it with a known mother plant, and we give those 1,000 seeds to growers, and we let those growers grow the plants out, send us back the information. If we're looking for cherry, we're looking for growers to say, "Sub, it tastes like cherries." If If we're looking for short, we're looking for growers to say sub, it looks short. And if we get too many characteristics from a test strain that we didn't want, we kill it. And I just wrote an article about Black Dahlia. If you guys are growing Black Dahlia, it's a beautiful strain, beautiful coloring. Everybody likes it, but 3 test growers got hermaphroditic traits, and I crushed the strain. It's gone for good. It's even been picked up by a magazine, and people call me and want to buy it. But as a breeder, you cannot give in to that. If you good growers grow it out and they say, sub, I had to kill a couple females because I had monkey food on them, then you have to be true to your craft. And I think that is one thing I've done that other people don't do. I've killed so many plants. We used to throw seeds away in this one copse flower bed in Georgia. We'd go by 1,000 and toss all the seeds in the yard. But you got to be willing to kill a strain, all the seeds, all the clones, all the parents, and not put your name on it. And if you only produce really good genetics, then down the road, maybe somebody will remember you for something like Kaboom or Jesus or something like that.
Is there any weird or oddball traits? I know Mr. Green Jeans has talked about the one strain he's grown has had a bunch of twin seeds and some other funky traits that we've talked about in the past. Is there any maybe oddballs or funky mutations you've seen along the way? And the other question with that is, do you think that, because I've heard different things on polyploids in cannabis and whether or not they're actually genetically possible, given the way that cannabis's genes work?
You know, I will tell you, I'm not a trained grower. I taught myself. But we always thought a polyplant was that 3-sided thing, and we see them all the time. The 3-sided plant. I don't know if it's a true polyploid though, because they grow out of it. Have you ever had a poly or a 3-sided plant grow out of it? Have you ever seen that? Because I had a clone once that it absolutely had 3 sides to it, and I didn't pay attention. And down the road, I noticed it didn't have 3 sides to it. So absolutely, I think anything is possible in cannabis. How many people have seen the bud growing out of the fan leaf? You know, we call that wanting to be dank, baby. It wants to be dank. It's just growing a bud leaf out of it. You know, cannabis isn't a magical plant, and then we are interspecing the hell out of it. I mean, you got to understand. Somebody talks about land race now. I almost laugh. I mean, everybody is crossing everything with every single thing, and so it's really hard to get down to that original land race. So I have seen my favorite morph is a plant that's yellow and green. God, I wish somebody smarter than me could tell me what that is. So that's half the leaf is yellow and half the leaf is green. Have you guys ever seen that on a plant? What does that? You know?
So there's a couple,
and I didn't know how to answer it, but yeah, we've had it at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. Had somebody come on and post a picture of that and go, "What's wrong with my plant? Or is this, and it didn't look like it was unhealthy."
So there's a couple of things, and actually there's a couple of things that can happen. One, you can have natural variegation, which is around a 1 in 100,000 genetic mutation with the seeds, and that's just normal. It's the same as like the variegated pothos you can get at your grocery store. You know, it's no different than that, or some of the fancy stuff you get at your local nursery for normal garden plants. And then the other 2 things that can cause it, there's actually 2 viral infections that can cause it. If you notice, it starts off as a couple of streaking and then splits to half or 3/4 of a leaf, and then it starts to being whole leaves. That's actually a viral infection. It's similar to tobacco mosaic virus or tomato mosaic virus, and that can actually totally destroy the strain, because what will happen is it grows and grows and grows, and then it doesn't have any more leaves that actually have any more chlorophyll, and then it just dies because it can't produce any more energy. And I actually have a plant, one of the natural variegated that I had. I posted a video on it on my YouTube channel from a couple of years ago that I got, and then I've also had once or twice I've seen it was cross-pollinated with hemp, field hemp, that was blown, pollen blew in Colorado, actually, that I've seen that viral infection.
We've actually tested a lot of our plants through tobacco mosaic virus because I was scared about it. I wanted to cover one thing real quick since you guys got me on here. Sure. That's important. People talk about genetic drift a lot, and I don't believe in genetic drift. I believe genetic drift happens when you take a sick clone. So I think one of the things that's really important for growers to get good at that we don't ever talk about is cloning. Just because you can make a plant live, it doesn't mean you're good at cloning. If it takes 15 days to root you may be damaging the DNA chain inside your plant. And I've actually seen plants get sick from this. And these are two things you can do to get out of it. One is put them in the sunshine, which is not exactly practical unless you've got a sealed room because it can get bugs on it. But we now are doing cellular cloning, tissue culture cloning, and we just bought a kit off of Amazon and we're teaching ourselves. So far, we have nubs, and that means something's growing in the agar, and no mold, no mildew. The reason this is important is if you can generate a new piece, it will break through any problems you have, any pesticide, and that single cell could be shipped somewhere quasi-legally in America, and that's going to get really important soon. You know, any other business, you could even ship a damn virus medically across the country. Cannabis, moving cannabis from one state to another is becoming impossible. We believe in the near future, you'll be able to do it legally with tissue cultures. So that's two things that I think people should study up on. If you want stuff that you can hone your craft, get really good at taking really small clones, I think it's really important. And buy you a $134 kit from Amazon and start cell cloning. It's fun as hell, man. It's Mr. Science on a whole new level.
Well, I was involved with a guy building a 100,000 plant facility in Canada last year, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to do cultures. Yep. So that's interesting you bring that up. That's what he saw as the way to go. We don't know that we totally agreed with that, but I see your point 100%. You know, what you're talking about of being able to share those cultures and all. But I mean, that's a whole nother story if we start getting into starting a commercial grow op too.
The nice thing about it is too, from a breeder standpoint, is you can have an entire library of genetics that are pretty much on demand that you can immediately, you know, produce. If you need more pollen from this male, boom, I take him off the shelf, I grow him out, and you know, add it to whatever the hell else I'm going to crossbreed it with. So
well, I got to tell you, there's a company on Instagram called Pinterest, and they do massive greenhouses. And my hat's off. I'm not talking trash. I only have one thing to say. I don't want 3 acres of one strain. I got a pool full of weed, and I got 19 strains. I like variety. These giant monocrops, boring. I mean, I want something new. I always grow that one plant here, one plant there. I just picked up Kyle Cushman's strawberry cough, and we crossed it with the Jack the Ripper, so we made strawberry daiquiri. I've got that growing. But also we took his star dog and crossed it with space dog, and we call it Strelka, the second dog in space, and I'm growing that. So one of the best things about being a breeder is getting able to grow genetics before anybody else on the planet. They get to smoke new stuff. And I get a thrill out of being able to grow something and say, you know, I'm smoking it and nobody else smoked it yet, and share it. And that's cool.
Was the first plant I ever grew.
Was it?
Yeah, strawberry cough and ATF. And I still have that ATF cup 15 years later.
Kyle is a very nice person, if I could speak for Kyle. He is a polite, I'm the Howard Stern of this industry. I mean, I can be quite intense. I've been through a lot. Kyle's the nicest guy I've ever met to have gone through many of the same things. So I believe he's a great face for cannabis, and he has a couple of new licensing deals too. So really excited to work with some of these older guys. But show respect to you. If you young guys are watching, you know, remember that many of us were doing time before there was a single dispensary open in America. And I'm one of those guys.
So you're a big proponent of super soils. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, super soil is a recipe that I got from Vic High. Was an old soil grower, and he had a really simplified recipe. It had chicken manure and stuff. And I kept having problems growing. I would have a really good crop, and then I would burn the crap out of it. And I needed some consistency. So I switched over to soil, and I slowly started making changes to this thing called super soil. And you can find it on my website. But super soil is basically 9 bags of high quality potting soil, 5 pounds of bud meal, 5 pounds of bone meal, some bat guano, worm castings, insect frass, a couple of other different trace elements, azomite stuff. You mix it together, put it in a garbage can, and you use it as a concentrate. I fill the bottom half of my pot with super soil, and I fill the top half with a high quality potting soil. And I don't use anything else on my garden. Well, we use a container, the proper size that we need. I have started using teas, truth. I like teas, but we don't use fertilizer. We just make up super soil. And this is the theory of super soil. If you make this recipe up and it works really well on a plant, and then you make it exactly the same every time you grow that plant, it's going to be really good. Then, if you have another strain that takes a little more super soil or a little less super soil, cheese strains take less. Then you know when you transplant it, you just use a little less. And what I'm able to produce is consistency. And it goes further. When I have 20 super soil cans in my backyard, all made up properly, sitting there with Sinsec frass on them, I know I have trouble-free growing for the next month after month after month, because it's repeatable. It's like making brownies. Take the super soil, you put it in a pot, put the plant in there, you shape it, and you feed it with water, good, clean water. And I'm able to produce anywhere between 2 and 2.5 pounds per 1,000 watt light using super soil. And then I was able to transfer this method to other people. And even people in Ireland and the UK, where apparently you have to ride a fucking bicycle to go get your worm castings, still make worm castings. I mean, you can buy sheep poop and you can get, it's just simple ingredients. There's no place in the world that doesn't have blood meal. There's no place in the world that doesn't have bat guano. There's no place in the world that doesn't have, worm castings. And so it's just a simple formula that you can run down to the grow shop, mix up 3 cans of it, and 3 cans of it lasts me through about 10 pounds. So a lot of people have transferred this recipe. Me and Dutch were talking about it beforehand. There are entire factories that make super soil and then deliver it to giant commercial grows, and they just grow in it. Just go.
Yeah, I get questioned about that all the time on the forum too. We're always, I mean, it's funny. I love having you on tonight because you're sitting here going through all the stuff you've been involved with, and I get these questions. I do my research, and I've made super soil basically in the past when I first started growing. Then I grew into the nutrients, and I went all over the place because I teach people, but I wasn't interested in just doing one thing. And I don't think you did either. You've come to what you think is the best, and that's what we're all striving for. But yeah, I get the questions about super soil all the time. So it is so great to hear you say that tonight, because now I have a better way of answering questions to people on the forum. And we've got thousands and thousands of new growers, and they're our age. That's what I love about it. They're the growers that are coming out in droves on the forum, and at least ours, because I made our forum very friendly. There's nobody's getting cussed out or anything over there. You can come there and learn to grow successfully. We've had first-time growers win the Bud of the Month contest. That's almost unheard of, to have a guy that never grew before buy your genetics, grow a plant, put it up, and the membership votes his bud the best, and he wins a pack of free seeds, and we do that every month. But I get the super soil, and now I feel more confident about giving a better, more informed answer. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. And Roger, I'll tell you, the biggest contingent of growers is older growers. I heard something funny last week, and somebody asked me if I had some weed that wasn't so strong, and you guys laugh, but you're going to see people who want 13 and 14% strains who want to sit around and smoke it, not see and shit.
You know what the #1 seller was when Colorado legalized the first 2 years?
What?
The #1 seller for all cannabis products in Colorado, as far as single item, was the Rookie Cookie. The super, it's like 5 or 10 milligrams in the whole cookie. That's the thing that was selling the most. So it was just, that's because you have so many people that are, especially older people, coming into it. And it's I also do work with Weed for Warriors and Grow for Vets, post on the forums, and we've had them on the show as well in the past, and I've worked with them at events as well, and it's really awesome to see so many people in that 40 to 60, even 70 age range. I know the very first cannabis class I ever taught on aquaponics, I had a 19-year-old and an 88-year-old, and to this day, the 88-year-old lady, I ended up going to her house later on, had probably the nicest cannabis plants I have ever seen in my entire life in terms of actual size and average cola size. To this day, I still think is the best ones I've ever seen. So it was just so nice to see such a wide range.
You wait until you get not cutting down my culture or my son's culture, but you wait until it's not Beavis and Butthead, till it's the guy that's growing the champion tomatoes every year for the past 30 years that put some cannabis in his yard. That's what you're going to see. I need to kick out, but I want to tell you guys, and I have a little message for you guys. So each time in my life when something tragedy has befelled me, and generally in my life it has been getting arrested for cultivating a cannabis. The way I bailed myself out of it was I took a seed and I planted it, with love and respect. And that plant gave me back everything I needed. And when I came here to Arizona and my house had burned down and I had nothing, I bought some dirt and I put some seeds in it. And you can go on my Instagram now. I got a pool full of weed and 2 brand new cars. So, and I'm not trying to be an ass when I tell you this. What I'm telling you that even when we were talking about the low prices of cannabis and the regulatory problems, this plant has given me everything I have ever had. Literally the things I own were bought with cannabis money now. So if you give your love and passion to this plant, it will still take care of you. And for those of you guys who are looking to buy my seeds, you can go to subcool.com. There's a list of distributors. It's pretty easy to get my seeds. I mentioned it before. If you're sick or broken and you need my help, you can reach me at subcoolseeds@gmail.com. I read every email just like you're my brother. If I can help, I will. And that's it. I sure appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks for taking the time to join us, and you're welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Awesome.
Thanks again. I'll see you soon. Roger, I'll have to come over and check out your site.